Every year is marked by the events that stamp it in our memories. We still talk about the 1927 adventures of Charles Lindbergh and his daring one-man flight across the Atlantic Ocean. He was the first to do it. 1927 was his year. In 1939, the stormtroopers of Adolf Hitler's Germany forced their way into history. Their invasion of Poland began the Second World War. 1945 was the year of the first mushroom-shaped cloud over the testing grounds at Alamogordo, New Mexico. It signaled the beginning of the atomic age. And many of us remember the happiness when later in 1945, the Second World War ended. And who can forget 1969? It was the year one of the great dreams of the centuries came true at last. The men of Apollo 11 walked on the moon. Good evening. I'm Walter Cronkite. In our memories, we connect every year with certain important stories, either because they've become part of history or because they have a very personal meaning to each of us. Well, as 1973 approaches, what will we choose to remember about 1972? We at CBS News have some thoughts on the subject, and so do 8 young people we've invited here tonight. We have ready for replay some of the faces, the places, the music, the entertainment, and the great events of the past 12 months. From these, our young guests are going to choose what each regards as the most important stories of 1972. In a moment, we're going to find out what events from this year they think are most likely to shake their worlds and shape their futures. This is a broadcast about a time in their lives called 1972.
From CBS News, Whatever Happened to 72? A special broadcast for young people with CBS News correspondent Walter Cronkite.
Enjoying our children and grandchildren is the best reason for staying on the young side, with sensible exercise and sensible eating. And breakfast is so important. I like to start ours with Product 19 cereal. It has all the officially established minimum daily adult requirements for vitamins and iron.
Yeah, Grandpa.
She likes Grandpa riding better than horses.
Stay on the young side. Start breakfast with Kellogg's Product 19.
Here's the fastest relief known for bronchial asthma attacks. Restores free breathing as fast as 15 seconds. It's Primatene Mist. Or to keep breathing freely for hours, take Primatene tablets. In the lungs, Primatene opens clogged breathing tubes, relaxes bronchial spasms, restores free breathing in and out. That's Primatene Mist, the fastest relief known. Or Primatene tablets, with the asthma relievers doctors prescribe most.
This evening, with the aid of 8 young guests from Evanston, Illinois, we're going to review the top news stories of 1972. We're also going to be seeing the sports and the movies and the TV that helped set the background for this year. We'll meet our guests after we all take a look at the national news of 72, reviewed for us by Roger Mudd.
Only a few years ago, people would have said a scene like this was the product of someone's wildest dreams. Avowed anti-communist Richard Nixon had found his way to Peking to meet with Chinese Communist Premier Zhou Enlai and Chairman Mao Zedong. For many people, the live color pictures coming back from China were more mysterious than watching the first pictures from the moon. Another easing of international tensions took place when President Nixon flew to the Soviet Union to confer with its leaders at the Kremlin. Among the president's ceremonial duties was a trip to honor the Russian dead of World War II, including a 12-year-old girl named Tanya. Then, for the first time in history, an American president spoke on Soviet television directly to the Russian people.
Let us do all that we can to ensure
that no other children will have to endure what Tanya did.
The talks with the Russians resulted in two other major news events this year. One was the signing of an agreement to limit the amount of strategic nuclear weapons each side would have. The other was an agreement for the Soviet Union to purchase grain in the United States to help make up for a poor Soviet harvest. The Soviet wheat deal turned into the biggest wheat sale ever made and left Americans at home paying higher prices for their bread. On Thursdays throughout the year, representatives of the United States, North and South Vietnam, and the Communist Viet Cong continued to meet in Paris, trying to negotiate a way out of the longest war in American history. But behind the scenes of the official talks, it was revealed that presidential aide Henry Kissinger and North Vietnamese representative Le Duc Tho were secretly negotiating an agreement. It seemed a sign of good faith when North Vietnam sent home 3 captured Americans this year and allowed some American reporters to visit Hanoi. But the terms of what seemed to be an agreement ran into trouble in Saigon, where President Thieu wanted none of it. So the war continued in the South and the bombing continued in the North, as President Nixon continued searching for peace with honor. The great political conventions of 1972 were both held in Miami Beach this year. It almost seems that the marching and the shouting and the speeches of victory happened a long time ago.
Come home, America. Come home to the affirmation that we have a dream. Come home to the conviction that we can move our country forward.
I again proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States.
The election followed. It was the first time in which 18-year-olds had the right to vote. Not too many of them took the advantage. It was others who provided Richard Nixon with one of the greatest wins in presidential history. 1972 was the year the Supreme Court said the death penalty was unconstitutional. Over 600 men and women on death row were spared the trip to the executioner. This was a flight over the Potomac River and towards a cluster of buildings in Washington called the Watergate. It's here the Democratic National Committee has its headquarters, and it's here that a group of men got caught breaking into the Democratic offices. From the arrests came accusations of political espionage that involved the Republican Committee to re-elect the president. American politics had never seen anything like it before. Electronic devices, secret photographs, hidden bank accounts, and people who disappeared into the night. It all became known as the Watergate affair, with more and more details still finding their way into the news. Water itself made news in '72. In the Northeast, it was the rainiest year on record, and the rains brought floods. And at the end of the year, Apollo 17 lit up the sky.
Mission Control, sir, reporting the launch vehicle maneuvering to the proper attitude. Everything.
It was the last trip to the moon for American astronauts. Apollo 17 brought the first chapter in America's exploration of space to a close.
Now may I introduce our guests. They're all from the 9th grade of Evanston Township High School in Evanston, Illinois.
My name is Kurt Carlson.
David Simon.
Lisa Shaw. My name is Nikolai Beluga.
Jim Greenberger.
I'm Karen Pepper.
Diane Trotsky.
My name is Dave Alderson.
All righty, now, we saw a moment ago the film review of the big national stories of the year. What do you think was the big national news event of the year?
I think that it was the election, because we're going to be dealing with that in 4 more years. And I thought it was the election, because that'll have something to do with us in the near future. So.
I would say it would be more likely Vietnam, because here in our time, the time right now, is the major conflict point in the world between the 2 great superpowers, as you might term them. And the results of this conflict are going to be on our age, our generation, and the generations after us for many, many years.
Well, I think the most important national issue was the Watergate affair. It's getting to the point where if we can't trust our government and our present administration, who can we trust?
What about space? the fact that our Apollo manned space program, landing on the moon, is over, finished for perhaps the rest of this century, perhaps the rest of your lifetime. I don't really believe that, but at least for some time to come. Do you think that rates anywhere in this priority of important stories of the year?
I think that it'll help us in the future. I think that if we continued Apollo, we could do things in the future, for instance, putting garbage up there. Like maybe we couldn't live up there, but we always could do something other, add something other with it.
The space program is one of the biggest mistakes the United States have made this century.
It's a mistake.
I do because I think...
Why is it a mistake? Why is it a mistake?
All right,
I have a hunch that's a friendly question coming from Nikolai. That's what's called a friendly question in court.
Here we're going spending billions and billions of dollars to something that we don't really know about. We're taking a big risk in what we're doing, and I think that we should be more concerned with the domestic problems.
Earth should be the #1 concern because there are so many problems, ecological problems to begin with. Our environment right here is going.
You mentioned Watergate. Why do you think it didn't seem to make more impact with the people?
It's showing that what politics is really made of. It's a dirty game, it's rough, and it's something that I wouldn't want to get involved in.
It's a perfect example of something that could go wrong and does go wrong, and how corrupt the government can be.
The Watergate affair itself, I believe, is a crime against democracy. But the worst crime is that it was overlooked. There has been no great investigation into it, and that's as terrible a crime as the actual bugging itself. I mean, I'm not saying that Richard Nixon had anything to do with it, or that it was a conspiracy of the Republican Party. I'm just saying there should be an investigation into this point.
People don't think seriously enough about what's going to happen or what is happening to vote properly or to vote at all.
Kurt?
Well, people didn't care in this election. I think it was the lowest turnout ever. It was a candidate, it was a battle of...
Lowest percentage turnout.
The lowest percentage ever. It was the battle of two losers. One, Richard Nixon, one his name in lights when he gets in his later years, and one, George McGovern, when he quit political fame. And nobody wanted to vote, and nobody cared about this election.
I'm going to have to take an oath here that we didn't select you because of your politics tonight to investigate the Watergate affair. Well, in a moment, we'll be back to take a look at Sports 72 and pick what our young people think is this year's top international story.
Hiya, folks. Not nervous now, are you?
Oh, no.
Allstate knows you feel tense when you buy your first home at that ritual known as the closing.
You know the Hollises, of course.
Yes, hello. It's nice to see you again.
I believe you'll find everything in order there. Shows your balance of $19,500.
You better check the...
It's a lot of money. So when you buy your first home, here's something Allstate thinks you should know. The time to shop for insurance is before the closing. When you can compare policies, then you'll have the time to make a smart decision.
Sign where the X are indicated.
I guess so.
And then, chances are, you'll pick Allstate. Allstate Homeowners Insurance gives you more protection at less cost than similar policies from many other companies.
You've just bought yourself a home.
Congratulations.
Well, I see you have Allstate, too.
Make sure you have it before the closing. Then, you're in good hands with Allstate.
Tonight, with the help of 8 young people from Evanston, Illinois, we're examining what in 72 is going to be remembered by them and by history as time goes by. Right now, we're going to ask them to choose the big international news story of the year. For our opinion of some of the leading stories, here's CBS News White House correspondent Dan Rather.
In 1972, the Mideast struggles found a new arena, Munich, Germany. It was the early morning hours in Olympic Village at Munich when 8 guerrillas of an Arab group called Black September forced their way into the rooms of the Israeli team. The world watched live on television the slow but deadly drama which took place through the day and into the night. It ended in a shootout in the pitch blackness of Munich Airport. The toll, 11 Israelis, 5 Arabs, and 1 German dead. Next day, the games were suspended in memory of the fallen athletes. It didn't take long for Israel to retaliate with force across her borders. And it didn't take long before the Palestinian guerrillas found a new way to strike at their Israeli enemies. 1972 was the postmark of the letter bomb. This was not only an election year in the United States, but Canada chose a new government too. The surprising result was that Pierre Trudeau, a man who seemed to have tremendous popularity only a short time ago, was now barely able to hold on to his job. In 1972, England, Ireland, and Denmark decided to join the common market and the idea of a united Europe. But Norway said no. There was also an election in South Korea this year. President Park found a way to rewrite the Constitution to enable him to stay in office indefinitely. Park claimed the martial law he had declared and the new powers he obtained from the people were going to make it easier for him to come to some kind of accommodation with the communist North Koreans. Both sides began talking this year about reunifying their country, but each side seems to want reunification under its own kind of rule. Ordering the surrender of all personal firearms in the Philippines, President Ferdinand Marcos put his country under martial law to deal with what he called the communist threat. Civil liberties went out the window as Marcos suspended the Constitution to keep his grip on power in face of his country's worsening economic situation and a coming election he might have lost. Violence continued to be a way of life in Northern Ireland. Protestant and Catholic and British Tommy all fell victim to the terrorist bombs and the snipers' bullets. 1972 brought no apparent solution to Ireland's prolonged agony and anger. And finally, in the peaceful quiet of the Vatican, a crazed man picked up a hammer and attacked Michelangelo's statue of Mary and the dead Jesus. In 1972, the Pietà became a symbol of the violence throughout the world which had been wrought by man.
Well, those are the big international stories. Which of those do you think will have the greatest impact on your lives? Lisa?
I think that the most important, or the biggest one, was definitely the Mideast crisis, because that was really, really bad. Interfering with the Olympics, which Olympics is supposed to be the grouping of all countries in peace and, comparing your athletes and everything, and it's really supposed to be great. But instead it turned out to be a complete chaos, and no one knew what was going on, and everyone was shooting each other. It was just really bad.
It goes to show you what's this world coming to? The Olympic tragedies, innocent people getting killed. Some people want to fight for a cause, but then there's those that don't.
What are we going to do about this? Now, do you see any hope of a world order that can dampen that kind of violent militancy so that those people who feel very strongly, emotionally about issues can go to some sort of a world chamber and argue their case without having to resort to guns and explosives?
Several things have to be done. First of all, the countries really shouldn't harbor these people who are the terrorists. And one way that we could get them to stop, where I think, my work, I can't say I don't run a country or anything, but other countries
I'm not sure, Karen, you ought not to.
Other countries have effect on other countries. Like if the U.S. Stopped importing goods from one country, like the one that harbors terrorists, or stops exporting goods, they can put some sort of a pressure on their country to stop harboring terrorists and things like that, and also not to let hijackers land their planes there, because that's one reason there's so many hijackings, because they're allowed to land.
But all nations have to act on a whole to
Would you people be willing to yield any of our American sovereignty, our right to run our own lives in our own way, in order to strengthen an international body? Because that's the only way it's going to be done.
Can you give some examples?
What are you asking us to yield? What type of sovereignty?
Yeah.
And for what?
That's the question, isn't it? So you get down to that point of what kind of sovereignty. How much sovereignty are you going to yield? What are you going to give up? Which rights are you going to give up?
Well, what rights would we have to give up?
We have to give up any.
Yeah. Somebody has to give up something.
Right, but if they're gonna continue, because we've done a lot to them, I feel, and I mean, I can't see too much that they've done for us, but take our money and our products and everything.
Well,
they've given us.
Somebody's got to do that sometime. Somebody's got to step in, and somebody's got to let these things
why
happen.
do we have to be big brother or whatever?
I think we're one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful.
We have problems of our own that if we would take care of them, that's fine.
A country can't be isolated from the rest of the world.
Maybe if that were so, that they would do better on their own because they would stand up alone.
We've tried leaving it up to themselves, and they just get in wars, and they're going to kill each other off, and it's too late to leave them to themselves anymore.
Somebody else has to step in and help. I really feel that.
I feel we cannot play big brother to
right,
little
that's
countries
what I'm
anymore.
saying.
If they want to fight it out and kill amongst themselves.
That's right. Like Vietnam.
The faster they kill each other, I mean, the faster they're going to come to the conclusion that war just, no, it won't.
That's not the way to get things done, by killing off each other.
That's not the way to go about it. Of course not. That's just the point. The faster they kill each other, if they want to shoot each other up, the faster they're going to realize that they're never going to settle anything.
To talk to, then maybe they'll realize what they're doing.
You're right.
We can't step in and try to establish.
You can step in. I'll stay home. You step in. I'll stay
out to do it.
You can.
You can't cop out.
The point, no, you can't step in on nations' affairs.
You can't step in because you aren't isolated.
It's none of our business what they're doing because we haven't done.
No, I'm not talking about
it was quite clear now. We've got a pretty good difference of opinion on exactly how this question could be solved. And for a final word on that one, I want to hear from Diane, because she's been trying to get a word in there edgewise for quite a while.
I was agreeing with they said that we cannot go in and fight anybody else's wars, but we can't cut off our artery of communications. We have to understand what's happening and being ready to take action if something severe does come up. But for little conflicts or any civil wars, we must stay out of them.
Sports is certainly part of the picture of 72. I don't know whether we're going to have that big an argument on the sports or not. It's an important part of the mood of any year, at any rate. And here's news reporter Christopher Glenn with a rundown on some of the year's top sports stories.
This is the Miami Dolphins in the Super Bowl, but it's not a look into the future. It's a look back to last January in the 72 Super Bowl, when the Dolphins found themselves at the mercy of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Dolphins, with the best record in the NFL, seem to be heading back to the Super Bowl. In baseball, it looked as though the season would never get started because of strike number 1 for all the players in both leagues. For the first time in history, there was a players' strike, which left empty stadiums around the country on opening day. The out the first strike created lasted 13 days. In the World Series, Cincinnati came up against Oakland. It went 7 games, but underdog Oakland won it all. The biggest of all sporting events, the Olympics, took place in 1972 in Munich, Germany. Although it will be remembered as the tragic games, there were 2 stars who managed to capture not only a lot of attention, but some gold medals, too. The Soviet Union
I don't suppose we need to review sport by sport and winner by winner, but a couple of kind of philosophical questions about sports I'd like to know from your generation. What importance do you think sports have in the whole scheme of things?
I think it inspires the American people, even though it's a game that's been played by the Greeks thousands and thousands of years ago, and it's been inspiring the people ever since. It's also something that the people of the whole world can get together without having fear of each other and compete against one another.
But I think realistically, if you take the human being as an animal, it gets out the emotions, kind of. It gets out the hatred.
Kurt?
Well, I think that every Saturday or Sunday, people enjoy staying home and watching athletes compete, getting their heads beat in. Yeah.
Well, we'll be right back to look at the movies and TV of 1972, some of the continuing news-making stories of the year as well.
And you're both a chocolate mess. Oh, are you gonna get it?
The kids need help.
Come on. No chocolate mess with M&M's chocolate candies. Tell you why. I'm milk chocolate inside.
And I'm a roasted peanut, drenched in milk chocolate.
Covered with a colorful candy shell. So the milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
They seem awfully young.
M&M's chocolate candies. Plain.
And peanut.
The Johnson Wax Program, starring Fibber McGee and Molly.
Hi, I'm Fibber McGee. I introduced Glow Coat way back when. Now the Johnson folks are bringing out a brand new Glow Coat. It's even better against scuffs and scrapes, shields against black heel marks. And now it's good for touch-ups, too. I'll put Glow Coat on this dull spot. The shine blends right in, so you don't have to do the whole floor over again. It was great then, but the new Glow Coat's better than ever. Now it's for touch-ups, too.
Some things take effort to renew. For your body, it's natural.
There's a new you coming every day, every day. There's a new you coming every day.
Your body renews 3 billion cells a minute. Give it milk. It's a bodybuilding package no other single food can match.
Pour it out, drink it out. Let the best of you come shining through the great airway.
2 leading extra-strength tablets. While this one has several useful pain relievers, just 2 Anacin contain more of the specific pain reliever doctors recommend most than 4 of the other extra-strength tablets. Of course, 2 of these others is the recommended dose, but 2 Anacin contain as much of this specific pain reliever as 4 of the other extra-strength tablets. Next time you need a headache tablet, reach for Anacin.
Some of the events which take up the most news space each year are not really one story, but many stories, all connected together by a common thread. We hear about these stories each day, and they all add up to some of the major problems of our times. CBS News correspondent Douglas Edwards has some examples for us.
This year, air travel became more bothersome as skyjackings continued. Passengers entering planes had to pass through metal detectors on their way to their seats. People who seemed to fit certain profiles were stopped and searched. Packages were opened, and everyone was looked at with a suspicious eye. The reason for the suspicions was well-founded. Over 60 planes were skyjacked in 1972, and people were killed during the attempts. Holding the planes for ransom became the biggest reason for the skyjackings. But by the end of the year, it seemed that Cuba was unwilling to continue to be the landing strip for criminals from the United States. Skyjacking was only one of the many crimes committed in this country last year. Although our standard of living was the highest in the world and still getting better, the crime rate, along with the Dow Jones Industrial averages, hit a new high. A great deal of the crime was an outgrowth of another one of America's continuing problems, drugs. Although President Nixon made a deal with the government of Turkey to pay farmers for not growing the poppies that produce heroin, drug users continued to turn on and off using a whole variety of different other chemicals. There seemed to be some evidence that the use of drugs might be slowing up, but there was also evidence that today's young people might be turning back to drinking. The yellow school bus turned a lot of people red with anger this year. 1972 marked the 18th year since the Supreme Court decision which ordered the desegregation of the nation's schools with all deliberate speed. Parents in many northern communities demonstrated against the busing of their children to achieve racial balance. The President and the Congress considered a law which would stop the courts from making further decisions on busing to achieve integration. In 1972, the United States was using its energy and raw materials faster than it could replace them. Oil and natural gas reserves were running low. More and more, the country had to import raw materials from overseas to meet the growing demands of consumers and industry. The forecast was for the power shortage to get much worse before it could begin to get better with the aid of such devices as nuclear generating stations. It was the year of saving the watt. But the future of nuclear generators seemed to be tied to another problem. Pollution and ecology had become more important to many people than whether or not they'd have enough electricity to run their automatic toasters. Throughout the country, plans for new nuclear generators were being fought on the grounds the stations heat rivers and kill fish. Other environmental fights brought a curtailment in strip mining. The rush to gobble up land for new highways has slowed up. To get cleaner air, we now have to live with cars that sputter and stall because of devices mounted on them to purify their wastes. Millions are being spent to clean up our inland waterways and lakes and to find ways of preventing oil spills at sea. So far, the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, which would bring oil from the Arctic, has not been built because of ecological complaints. And so the quality of our environment and keeping an orderly society head the list of some of the great unsolved problems of this year and our times.
Well, there's not one of those problems that is likely to be solved by the time you people reach your majority 4 years hence. But most of them better be solved in your lifetimes, if you're going to have a full lifetime, I suppose. Which ones would you put in a priority category?
Ecology first.
Ecology, Diane?
If we cannot maintain our basic means of survival, then everything else is going to go. It's going to become corrupt. Our government, everything else will have to be neglected to maintain our physical safety. And this all stems from ecology.
Our government isn't neglected already?
Well, it is, but even more so. All these problems will have to be put aside to tend to this problem.
People don't feel that they belong to where they live or where they work, or like that's why they don't feel any part of it. They don't feel that it belongs to them. It's like your house. Do you spit on your floor? Do you throw papers on? Because you belong to that, and it's a part of you. Well, that's why I think that a lot of times in the projects, people will rip them up because they don't feel a sense of, you know, they can't relate to that. There's no way.
Well, I feel the whole ecological issue has been overlooked. It was like a big craze, another fad going through, but now I feel it has completely dropped and the people do not care about it anymore. They don't, let me put it this way, they don't care enough to do anything about it.
I think that's what someone's got to do. They pollute and everything, and they've got to take enough consideration into what is going to happen. You know, these people, they pollute and stuff, and it's not going to be their future. They've got to think about the future of the younger generation. Our generation, we're going to be brought into a world with many problems that we haven't really created, that have been created by the other generation, and we're going to have to deal with these.
You have to notify the people, right, and let them know what they're doing and what they can do.
You have to get
I'll accept that as a good final statement on pollution, if I may. And one of the things which go into making up our impression of a year is the entertainment of that year. From 1972, here are some of the movies that made it big at the box office.
He's got a plan to stick it to the man. He's super hood, super high, super dude, super fly.
She left him.
I'm sorry.
Bonus. What have I ever done to make you treat me so disrespectfully? If you'd come to me in friendship, then the scum that ruined your daughter would be suffering this very day. And if by chance an honest man like yourself should make enemies, then he would become my enemies. And then they would fear you.
Those were some of the big movies of the year. Meanwhile, on the home screen, television was putting new phrases into our language.
Come on and fly me.
Try it, you'll like it. So I tried it. Thought I was gonna die.
Come on and fly me. Together we'll fly high.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
You ate it, Ralph.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
No, Ralph, I ate it.
Look all you want. What you see is a lot more than what you're gonna get. The devil made me buy this dress.
You're right. The British are a bunch of pansies. Pansies, fairies, and sissies. And the Japanese are a race of midgets. The Irish are boozers. The Mexicans are bandits.
And you Polacks are meatheads. God will get you for that.
Well, certainly the movies and television are a cultural influence, they say. For good or for bad, I suppose. What about the movies?
They rate them R because if they're rated R, more people want to see what the R is about. So they come to the show without a parent or whatever, and they say, okay, and they give you your ticket. The R is only there so that more people will be attracted to the movie to see what the R is there for, the X or whatever.
Well, I think the problem with the rating system now, this is not a new argument, is that now violence is great. I mean, a kid can go in there and see thousands of people just shot, while if there's a naked lady from the waist up, it's terrible. No one can see it. I mean, sex is so bad in the movies while violence is all American and all that stuff. I think the rating system has to be revised. I'm not saying that it's the rating system itself is taking bad ideas.
They've got to base it more fairly for other people. Highly disagree. They're so totally against violence and things like that.
Well, a lot of these movies now on Saturday morning and watch Bugs Bunny beat up the Roadrunner, and that's just as violent as anything else.
All righty on that subject. Denis? Coming up next, our guests choose the newsmaker of the year and the year's top story. Now it's time to select the person who our young guests from Evanston Township High School think is going to be the top newsmaker of the year. Quite a few people made news this year. Correspondent Mike Wallace reviews some of them for us.
This man and his wife were responsible for the most notorious book in the United States this year, a book that was never published because it was a hoax. Author Clifford Irving and his wife Edith collected $650,000 for what was claimed to be the authorized biography of multi-millionaire mystery man Howard Hughes. But Hughes did something the Irvings never expected. He talked in public and blew the whistle on the whole phony scheme. West German Chancellor Willy Brandt was a major newsmaker this year as he continued his accommodation with the countries of Eastern Europe. And the West German people seemed to like what he was doing, because in their elections last month, they returned him to office. 11 months ago, this man faced almost a dozen other contenders for the Democratic Party's nomination for president. His chances seemed to be very slim against such favorites as Senator Edmund Muskie of Maine and Senator Hubert Humphrey of Minnesota. But Senator George McGovern won enough primaries to assure him of the nomination. Campaigning on the theme, Come Home, America, Morality in Government, and Peace Now in Vietnam, Senator McGovern lost every state but Massachusetts and the District of Columbia. By the end of the year, he had almost completely slipped out of the news. Thousands of miles south of the United States, some Argentinians cried, Come home, Juan. And so Juan Perón went back to his native country. The 77-year-old former president returned after a 17-year exile in Spain. To many, it seemed like old times again, with their leader back in sight. But to others who remembered the old times of dictatorship and repression, Perón's return meant only more trouble in a country already troubled enough. Accused of conspiring to murder and kidnap, communist teacher Angela Davis went on trial this year and found that a black woman could find justice in an American court. She was acquitted. But getting away from justice, the Department of Justice, was the desire of Martha Mitchell, the wife of former Attorney General John Mitchell. Martha claimed to have been a prisoner in her own house, and she wanted her husband out of what she called the dirty business of politics. So he left, and they are living in New York. She is happy, and he is back to making money. George Wallace has always been able to generate his own headlines, but last summer a young man named Arthur Bremer, seeking headlines of his own, attacked Wallace with a gun and left him wounded and paralyzed in a Maryland supermarket parking lot. One of the most frequently heard questions this year was, I wonder where's Kissinger now? The president's advisor on foreign affairs was here 1 minute and gone the next, spending a good deal of his time negotiating behind the scenes with Hanoi, trying to nail down an agreement which would make his pre-election statement that peace is at hand come true. No American beside the president himself was the focus of so much attention this year. A caption for this scene might have asked, why is this man smiling? Senator Thomas Eagleton of Missouri thought that he was the Democratic Party's nominee for vice president. Instead, Senator McGovern asked Eagleton to step down from his place on the ticket because of a nervous breakdown in Eagleton's medical history. Along with peace is at hand, McGovern's early endorsement of Eagleton, I'm behind him 1,000%, became one of the famous phrases of '72. There was a new and quieter Vice President Agnew on the campaign trail this year. Speculation had it that he was getting ready to be the Spiro of '76, hoping to replace his boss as President of the United States. Of course, you can't be president without finding your name in the news 24 hours a day. But this year, Richard Nixon did more than his share of newsmaking with his trips to China and Russia and his huge election win in November. Richard Nixon asked the American people for 4 more years, and he got them. The president concludes our list of candidates for Newsmaker of the Year.
Well, those are our nominees, but you might have some nominations of your own. How do you vote?
Well, I vote for Henry Kissinger. Individually, Henry Kissinger has done the most because he's gone in and has done as much as he can so far in helping with the peace talks, and he's doing a lot.
Well, we have our Kissingers, our Agnews, our Irvings, but a man we're overlooking is Mr. Thomas Eagleton, a senator from Missouri. This man went through psychiatric treatment and after nervous breakdowns and still came back to be a senator representing the state of Missouri and holding the nomination for Vice President of the United States for a short while. Now, he might not be the man of the year, but I think he should be recognized as the comeback of the year.
Jim?
I would have to say that my vote would go to President Richard M. Nixon, because whether you like what he's done or not, he has been in the headlines in Russia, China, all over the world with this tremendous election, or victory in the election. And I just don't think there's any way you can deny it.
Yeah, it's great. When you just look at it, he made, Mr. Nixon, President Nixon, has made the most news. He's just done something every month to something different.
These people, these special people, they come on for, you know, a few months at a time while, you know, the issue is something big and while it lasts. But Mr. Nixon, even all through this, he still managed to make a good showing, you know, that, and he just seemed to me, you know, like Jim said, whether you like it or not.
Nicolai?
since we've concluded who's newsmaker, I would like to say that I think that Irving, I think that he was pretty smart about doing all that, because I think that he knew that he was going to come out with the second story and have a double profit. So I think I have to congratulate him.
I think Americans, too, enjoyed his little bazaar, because there can be fun in America, and things like this we can't pull over on people.
I think it was just a big publicity stunt.
And what about your nominee for Man of the Year, then?
Okay, well, I probably have to go on with Richard Nixon. I think he's helped the American people. The war is coming to an end. Our economy, is getting stronger.
I have to agree. Mr. Nixon's just continuing frosting over the layers that he's, with his various achievements, his trips and so forth. He is the newsmaker of the year.
We've been looking at the world this evening from an American point of view. Now, if we lived in, Poland, for example, some of our top stories would be different, although some news events, of course, have no boundaries at all. Before we ask our guests for their choice of the top story, we ask some young people around the world for their opinions.
Freddy Lekis, Beirut, Lebanon.
What do you think were the top news stories of 1972?
The first event was the attacks of the Israelis at South Lebanon. Second was the elections in the USA and the case of Munich and the death of the commanders and some of the guards.
The peace in Korea and the talkings of peace in Vietnam and the elections of Miss Universe. They elected Georgina Rizk from Lebanon for Miss Universe.
My name is Jackie Russell and I live in Hong Kong. I think the 5 big news of Hong Kong and around the world are, first, the Cross Harbour Tunnel. This is a very good idea and helps motorists that live in Hong Kong and Kowloon. Second, President Nixon's visit to China. This shows that the East and West are trying to mingle with each other and build a relationship. Thirdly, there's the Clean Hong Kong campaign. This is a very good idea as it helps to keep the streets of Hong Kong clean and stops diseases from spreading. Fourthly, there's Tanaka's visit to China. This shows as well that other countries are trying to build a relationship with China. And last, I forgot.
My name is Andrea Ulich. I suppose the most important things in this year were the Olympic Games, the elections of the President of the United States of America and for the German Parliament, and the agreement between East and West Germany.
Well, in Italy, recently, Italy won the world skiing competition, and then the maniac damaged the statue of Michelangelo.
Jews from Russia which want to come up to live in Israel, to live freely in Israel and live in their own home country, are not allowed, and if they are, they have to pay a lot of money to get here.
The recognition of Bangladesh, a new country formed by a war which used to be East Pakistan.
The Queen's silver wedding anniversary, and that England has decided to join the common market, and that this is the 50th anniversary of the BBC.
Lastly, the Duke of Windsor died recently, and I think he was a very great man because he gave up his throne to marry the girl he loved.
Well, quite clearly, as we newsmen have known all along, the most important news is that which happens next door. And then the next most important news is that which happens 2 doors down the street and on down the block and around the world. What about your nominations for the top story of this year?
I think that the President's trips to Russia and China are the most important of the year. As I mentioned before, they are going to minimize the possibilities of war and maximize the prospects of peace. And it will further the relationships, which will be both beneficial to the countries we're dealing with and all around the world, making a better place to live.
Well, I think it's probably the election, because in our democracy, how can one man win by such a large landslide and have it really a two-party system? I think that's the big news story, is how a man can win by such a large number of votes. And are the people so committed to one party or so committed to that one man, or is our system falling apart and don't the people care?
Well, I think the story of the year was probably the incident at the Olympics where the Israelis were murdered and everything. I think that was a very shocking thing, and that, it certainly wasn't what people had expected. I thought that was a very important issue.
I'm going to have to go back and say that the issue of peace and settlement in Vietnam would be the top news story of the year, because it really affects everyone, all the countries of the world. It's the major conflict between the free countries and the communist countries, and it's, after 15 years, is finally coming to an end. And it's just going to be interesting to see what replaces it, if any.
Lisa?
Well, I would agree with Diane. I think the trip to Russia and the trip to China started a relationship that can go on forever and really build up, and it can be something of, real importance.
How about you, David?
I'd like to go along with the 11 Israelis killed in the Olympics. It shows that what's this world really coming to, all the terrorism and all the hatred that's going on, and it's existing throughout the world, and it's something that the world has to be concerned about. It has to be keyed in.
Nicolai?
I think it was mainly the elections, because those are the most domestic problems or news. And then I think would be the peace talks, and then the segregation or the desegregation in the schools.
Oh, that's a nice multiple choice answer to a multiple choice question. One of these days, after our giant spaceship Earth completes a few more laps around the sun, historians will go back to sort through the years of this decade. And when they come to 1972 and decide what to do with it, they'll probably think that much of what we reviewed this evening is not very important. 10 years from now, in 1982, when a lot of you perhaps have children of your own, you might find that the young people of the time regard what happened this year as just so much ancient history. And you yourselves probably will find that much of the news which saddened or delighted us this year has become nothing more than footnotes to history. But no matter what the historians say, 1972 was a year whose events changed our own personal lives forever. Whatever happened to 72? Well, for one thing, we shared it. This is Walter Cronkite. Good night.
Now you're stuffing yourself.
But this is Three Musketeers.
It's so big. It will weigh you down.
It's fluffy, not stuffy.
Not stuffy?
Inside is fluffy chocolate whip, not too filling.
Mmm, not stuffy.
I told you, the big Three Musketeers bar is fluffy, not stuffy.
Here are some things your feet might be better off without. It's a fact, shoes that pinch and rub are the #1 cause of corns. But you don't have to suffer, thanks to this soft, fleecy little wonder from Dr. Scholl's we call the Zinopad. It stays between you and your shoe to cushion and protect against pain, while the separate medicated disc helps remove the corn. The Zinopad by Dr. Scholl's. If the shoes pinch, wear it.
Our guests tonight were 9th graders from the Evanston Township High School in Evanston, Illinois.
This broadcast
Apartment 2, New York, 10016.
Stay tuned for the warm and poignant drama of a little boy in the ghetto at Christmas time. It's the award-winning drama J.T. next on CBS.
It takes a lot of love to make movie stars out of the world's most dangerous animals. Ted and Pat Derby do it for a living. What they do is to encourage animals to respond through love and affection. This Saturday and Sunday, the Derbys present their exciting wild animal show at the San Diego Zoo. Showtimes are 11:30 a.m., 1 and 2:30 p.m. Enjoy this free wild animal show and see the Derbys at the San Diego Zoo. Free parking, children under 16 free.
Every day is Dad's Day at McDonald's, because McDonald's has something Dad can really sink his teeth into. Something big, thick, and juicy. McDonald's Quarter Pounder and Quarter Pounder with cheese.
You deserve a break today, so get up and get away to McDonald's.
KNXT, Los Angeles.
Because of the